to everybody. Okay. We've got a minute. 6:59 according to my computer. Okay.
Then why always, whenever I start the live stream, it still defaults to a meeting of the full council on the 20th of December, 2021.
Oh, okay. Strange.
Well, it
Okay.
knows Colin's predilection for past dates, doesn't it?
Well, it's a picture of me and Liz basically at the time in a COVID-affected meeting by the looks of it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so should we get started?
It's just coming in visually.
Okay, I'm just gonna see if I can find my agenda. Should be there.
Can everyone hear me okay, by the way? Because Gary, I'm not sure he's complaining or just commenting that he can't hear me very well.
I can hear you, but you're quite, in comparison to Liz and anybody else who's speaking, you're probably about half of their volume.
Oh, okay.
You're lacking, I think, Colin, you're lacking presence. I think we're getting your treble, but your position relative to the mic, we're not picking up your bass.
Oh, okay. Very sorry. I could speak slightly deeper if that's any help.
Okay. I'm trying to get it so I can see the agenda without losing the picture of everyone. But anyway, it's not working for me at the moment. Okay, so let's just do this. Okay, so welcome everybody. We'll get started. So this meeting of the Energy and Sustainability Working Party. Any apologies for absence?
We have apologies from Councillor Cox and also from Jane Lomas, our committee administrator.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so item 3, declarations of pecuniary interest and requests for dispensation. So members to declare any interest they may have on the agenda and agree any dispensations to stay. So disclosable, other registrable interests and non-registrable interests. So is there anybody? Can't see anyone. Okay. So the minutes of the last meeting held on Monday, the 16th of September, as a true record. Can I have somebody? Councillor Stinchcombe, and seconded by Councillor David Smith. Okay, all those in favour? And me. So yes, thank you. So that's carried. Go to the next item, which should be from the minutes.
Do you want me to share?
Arising. Yeah, you could share, please, if you can. Okay, it should be my. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go through. First was so page 28, nothing there. On page 29. So the Swift boxes, just an update with those. We've got the guy from Save Our Suffolk Swifts coming on the 29th of January. Going to be held at the Arts Centre in the studio. So he's going to give a talk and hopefully we'll get local schools sending somebody, and Sarah's, when I last spoke to Sarah, she was going to get some marketing done sort of beginning of December. So I need to check with her. So I need to touch base with her just to see if that's being done. Seemed to be a bit of confusion whether I was contacting the schools or her. So I'll check with her to see where we are with that, with contacting the schools. I've also emailed Persimmon. Thank you, Councillor Mason, for supplying me with the contacts for them. But I've only just contacted them, so I don't expect a response quite yet. But hopefully we'll know soon enough if they can get involved in the project. Obviously, when they're planning their properties, designing their properties, whether they can have those installed. I think that's about it with the Swift boxes. Other than just to reiterate that in early January the men's shed are going to be making these for us. So when we come to the talk, we should have some available, for example, as an example, and also if anyone wants to purchase any at the time. Okay, so that was that item. Any questions on that? No. Okay, so the next one I think was for me as well, which was the eco vend. I have seen the publicity with that. I think there's a picture in the local paper, but it wasn't necessarily at our leisure centre, although it did mention it. It was the one at Bury. I think they took the picture and it was in the Suffolk news. So that's happening in the leisure centres. It's sort of been expanded to those. But obviously, we'd like to see some more if it's successful. So I need to get an update really from Councillor Jarvis, who was sort of leading on that. So I'll get in touch with him to see if we've had any feedback so far.
Chair, do we know if or at least to what extent West Suffolk have organised the vouchers, etc., for the Haverhill area? Because I thought that there was that rather than actual cash for
Right.
reverse vending, that people were getting some form of inducement to recycle in the form of vouchers.
Oh, okay.
I
I
hadn't heard
thought
a thing about it.
no.
I
I
didn't know they
thought
were there until the machine was pointed out to me when I was on
right.
the tour of the town with West Suffolk operations.
So did it mention the vouchers on the machine?
No, they didn't know.
I didn't know. Oh, okay. Because I understood it was all through an app.
Well,
That's what
Councillor
I
Miller
thought.
Jones has got a hand up.
Councillor Mina Jones.
Yeah, I was just going to say what you just said. I thought it was cash and it was through an app. So I'm pretty sure that's what's been done elsewhere, but maybe we've somehow got the wrong end of the stick. So we definitely need to clarify that. But I thought the same as you did.
Yeah. I'll try and clarify with Councillor Jarvis at West Suffolk to see if we've got any feedback, but also whether there's vouchers involved.
Or some publicity. I mean, I've not seen any publicity for this.
No, there hasn't really been publicity as such. Only that sort of news article, which was quite a good article, but it obviously came and went. Okay.
Well, the proportion of the Haverhill residents clamouring to read the Haverhill Echo probably means that 99% of the people have no idea the machine. So.
No, exactly. Okay. All right then. Yeah, I'll look into that for you. Thank you. The next bit was Chapel Drive.
Yeah, that's a mere culpa there. I've simply not done anything about that. Apologies, Councillor Mason.
Okay, and then me again, Puddlebrook. Dave and myself, sorry, Councillor David Smith and myself have been liaising with Damien Parker at West Suffolk. And the latest is that they're going to get somebody in to some architects and consultant to have a look at the landscape in it for in relation to the couple of people that have interested parties. And I don't know how much we can say here, but interested parties to introduce, to make use of the site, make better use of the site. So Damien Parker has said he'll keep us informed and also keep us informed about how we can fit some trees into this new landscape, if you like, that they hopefully will come up with as part of a master plan for the Puddlebrook. Any other questions on that, or have you got anything to add, Councillor Smith?
They're going back for some amendments to the plans that have already come forward. Let's just say I don't know how much is in the public domain, so I don't feel comfortable on saying too much at the moment. Yeah, but as you say, we are looking to incorporate landscaping, tree wardens would like within the plans.
Yeah, so Damien's aware that he needs to talk to the tree wardens as well, basically, and ourselves. Okay. Right. Any questions around that before I move on to the next item? No. So the next one was the Chalkston, Councillor Miller Jones, I believe.
Sorry, I don't yeah, okay. So I did that. I forwarded on the contact details. I put them in touch with each other basically. They were interested, and it got sent out to the groups, and that's the last I've heard about it. So I don't know if they did make contact again with Angela to sort of arrange anything or not, but I haven't heard, I put them in touch, and I to be perfectly honest, I forgot about it. But I'm assuming that if anybody was interested, then they would have made contact with her, and I don't know if that happened or not. I don't know if anyone else has heard anything about it.
I can help out on that one.
Thank you, Colin.
So yeah, the hedge plants are at the Arts Centre. The bringing together the working party hasn't been easy, mainly because of actually needing to nail down a date first, and that date, we didn't know when the Woodland Trust were actually going to, the actual date they were going to deliver the trees. They don't give any notice, they just deliver them basically. And secondly, we struggled to find companies that would quote for, or first of all try and find farmers, but then companies who would quote for the preparation work for the grounds. We eventually found a company that would do it. We got 3 quotes and have gone with the lowest, although it's still quite high. But basically tomorrow, whilst we're up there doing the fencing for the community orchard, the contractors arriving and will be flailing the area where the trees are going to be planted and the wildflower meadow will be, and then we'll till the land either tomorrow afternoon or Wednesday morning, and then that'll be ready for volunteers to be able to plant the trees, and then it's, we can give Mrs. Wilson the go ahead, and she can make contact with both Reach and also the volunteers at East Town Park who might be interested in helping to plant, and also some of the young people who Karen Chaffel works with as well.
That's good. That sounds like some good progress has been made there. Thank you. Councillor Miller Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. I was just wondering if you know if any of those groups that we forwarded it to did respond sort of to Angela or to anyone about actually coming to help with the planting. Do you know if anyone came back on that?
The last I heard is that she was struggling to recruit.
Okay.
But to be fair, without the date, it's very difficult to recruit anyway.
People can't commit if there isn't a date.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Colin. Okay, so is there anything else we need to on matters arising? Let's go down the minutes. Is there anything else on the minutes? Are these on the
agenda items?
On the agenda? Yeah, I thought they might be now. So, yeah.
I can confirm that I let Nan Eshelby know that the vote of thanks has been given.
Okay, I think that was all of the matters arising, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So we'll go back to the agenda. Just get my... Okay. Right, so a public forum. We haven't got any members of the public here, have we?
No.
No. Okay. So we'll skip on to item 7, which is about the on-street EV charging, and to consider a report by Councillor Stinchcombe on on-street charging. So is that over to you then, Councillor Stinchcombe?
Well, it was really Colin's item
Okay.
on the agenda. Hello, I'm having difficulty. Okay. Originally, he wanted to, report because he'd done the business, but I don't know if
Okay.
everyone's had a chance on the committee. I'm sorry, Joe, you don't have this, but I circulated a report that tried to summarise Colin's correspondence with Councillor, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, Faircloth Mutton, isn't it? Colin, were you happy that I'd given justice to your correspondence? I tried to compress it down and paraphrase it to, to not be too lengthy, but
I thought so. I could put your paper on screen if that's useful, Chair.
Yes,
yeah,
well,
that will be useful
particularly
because I think you sent it out earlier today, didn't you? And I haven't had chance to look at
I've
it.
sent a correction, and I have in a moment another correction to make. I made a terrible mistake that I must admit in a moment that may amuse you.
Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a quick look at that. Did you want to just quickly talk us through it, or are you able to?
I could do. Colin, could you, for everyone else's benefit, because I've got my own copy on my own screen here, could you blow that up? Because although it's occupying the height of the screen there, it's not occupying the width, and I think people might be able to read it better.
Yeah, that looks better. Thank you.
That's more like it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there is yes, Colin's question. No, sorry, Colin's points before he actually asked questions in those first 3 bullet points, and I think it was about a fortnight later. The dear councillor, replied and made some introductory. I think there are 4 bullet points there of introductory remarks. I don't think we knew that they'd got 7 million of levy local EV infrastructure funding from central government, and they're saying that should result in over 3,500 public charging sockets, which sounds an awful lot until you think that we're only 3.5 of the population of Suffolk, so it didn't really go very far. If we get it in roughly proportion to us, that's not an awful lot of charging sockets, is it really? Anyway, it's a start. And they're running a pilot to do, I think the 3rd bullet point there, 100 community charging hubs, like car parks, essentially, I guess it means, or around sort of non-municipal car parks, not West Suffolk Council car parks necessarily, but village hall and community centre car parks, I guess it would be. And I don't know, Colin, did it occur to you that might include the Chalkstone, for example? Sorry, not the Chalkstone, the
Clements.
The Clements, that's the word I'm looking for. I knew it began with C. Might it be the Clements might be in line for one of those?
I don't know. There hasn't been any communication from County Council that I've seen inviting village halls and community centres to apply. One of the difficulties with our community centre at the Clements is that it's not a standalone car park that people would only use if they were at the village hall. It's people use it for ad hoc parking. So yeah, I mean, it would be difficult to, I don't know quite how it would work, that people would respect the parking spaces reserved for electric vehicles, and given how few spaces there are and how much fewer electric vehicles they are, perhaps wouldn't be realistic to have a one space dedicated. Nobody must park in it unless you're charging your electric vehicle, when there's only like less than 10 spaces anyway, really.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they've wrapped their heads around subtleties like that. But the interesting thing is that if I've paraphrased it correctly, they are already running that pilot. So, you know, if Colin hasn't heard anything by now, I doubt that we're going to, unless they're sort of trickling them out,
Well,
rationing them.
When I asked about the cross footway channels trial, the very cagey answer about the how they'd already managed to select the places and people that are taking part in this. There was no general invitation for people. So I would imagine that a similar kind of favoritism perhaps has gone on, and I would have thought probably if you want to find 100 community charging hubs, you probably want to have a day trip to East Suffolk.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor David Smith.
Thinking rather than a small car park next to the community centre, you've got the large car park where the shops are. Wouldn't it make more sense to put them there?
Yeah, for example.
I think the idea is that the village hall and community centres, I think, to be fair to the county council, I'd assume they're thinking particularly in rural areas. So if you live in a village where there's little off-road parking, people parking on the roads, and I drive through plenty of villages where that seems to be the case, the community centre may be the one place where you can actually park up. And a lot of village halls and community centres in rural areas are actually away from residential parking. So unlike the Clements, you don't find it being filled up day and night by people who have nothing to do with the village hall. So I mean, I think it kind of reflects Councillor Stinchcombe's earlier point about, 3,500 sounds like a big number of charging places. 100 sounds like a great number for village halls and community centres, but there's 800 parishes in Suffolk, and pretty well every single one of those parishes, I say, even if half of them, and that's clearly an underestimate, have a community centre of some sort, then only a quarter of them are going to be lucky enough to have something here.
Yeah. Okay. So going on through the document.
Yes, so we get to questions and answers, Colin's actual questions after his introductory shots, and answers after the councillors' introductory replies. So they're going to, they are already out to tender, I think it says there, doesn't it, somewhere? I don't know.
I think that was further up.
Oh, all right, okay. I think they're already out to tender for. No, sorry, that's for installation of charging points. Sorry, this is for the cross channels, isn't it? The cross pavement channels, which they want to call slot channels. And I'm terribly sorry, but I think that is a bit of a tautology. I mean, a slot is a channel, isn't it? So I don't know why you need to call it a slot channel, but there you go. There are three products there on the market that they are going for. Interestingly, although, as Colin said, they were very cagey about, it's too late for Haverhill to volunteer its services, blah, blah, blah. Each of those companies on their website each acknowledge that Suffolk is engaged in one of their trials, and they will allow you to put your name forward on their websites. But of course, that may just be a way of getting extra interested parties for later, but on the face of it, it sounds like, had we known this a lot earlier, we might have got our foot in the door, or I personally might have got my foot in the door for a trial earlier. Anyway, can proper weight be given to not overpricing? Was a question from Colin. And they say, sorry, I can't remember. Oh yeah, that basically this is for the channels again. One-off actual cost of the product and its installation, which is of the order of £1,000 if you look on these folks' websites, plus the cost of administering the license application. So they're not going to absorb that in any way. That you're going to actually have to. I don't know what it will be. They haven't said, but potentially you have to. And I don't know if you all know, but even just to get your curb assessed for a possible dropped curb costs, I don't know, is it 200 or 300 quid? And there's no guarantee. I mean, that's just for it to be assessed. You know, if they come along and say, well, sorry, you haven't read the criteria, you haven't understood or read the criteria properly, we can't possibly you can't possibly have one. You don't get any portion of your application feedback. You've lost your 200 or 300 quid. So I don't know what scale a license application for a so-called slot channel would be. I'm hoping it's like 20 quid, but you know, it could be 100 quid for all I know. And then they want a small recurrent fee to cover the cost of regular inspection and maintenance by highways.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
joke, isn't it? You know, that is a complete joke. I mean, what is that going to amount to? They can't even regularly inspect and maintain the actual roadway. So, you know, can't really see them doing a sweep down the pavements to inspect those. Sorry to be a cynic.
So David Smith, you've got a question?
Yeah, just go to me. If you pay to have one of these slots put on the across the pavement, and then you move or you get rid of your electric car, what happens then? Are you gonna take that with you and leave a gap in the pavement? Like, I don't understand how this works.
No, it's cemented in the pavement. You have just invested in the council's highway in their pavement. That's the ridiculous thing, that it's their infrastructure. You're upgrading it at your expense. I mean, a bit like a dropped curb, isn't it? You know, you can't take your dropped curb with you when you go, can you?
I guess.
And that costs an awful lot of money. Isn't a drop curb of the order of 2,000 or 3,000 quid? I mean, it's serious money, that. And we're only talking about 1,000 quid for this.
Well, you can add
I mean,
it
on
to
top,
the sales details of the house. It's an
yes,
extra kind of asset for the property.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah. It's not your property, but you've generated, as Colin says, an asset for sales purposes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to travel hopefully and think positively. Oh,
Okay.
yes. Okay. Councillor Mason's comment. Yeah, a couple of thou does for a pair of drop curves. You'd think you'd get a severe discount for that. Well, perhaps that was. Perhaps it would have been 6,000 if you'd bought them separately. I don't know. Anyway, it's grim. It's serious money. I mean, for a person earning a stack, you can grin and bear it. Maybe I don't know if you're grinning, Councillor Mason, but for someone who isn't earning income, that is, you know, I don't know, it's a joke, isn't it? You know, that would be maybe someone's life savings goes into a drop curb, or, you know, getting a charger and a pavement slot. Okay, are we ready to forge on? Yeah, so we they had told. Oh, hang on. How do we know about Norfolk? Norfolk was your research, wasn't it, Colin? I think you
Yeah, so
discovered.
this is harking back to those people who run a cable across the pavement already.
Yes.
And I chose Norfolk, although Councillor Stinchcombe can give other examples from around the country. There's quite a few highways authorities that do not stand on the fact that they won't allow people, they won't give people a license to just run a cable across the pavement, even with a cable protector of some sort. But Norfolk sets it out. It says if you're going to run a cable, these are the things we're worried about. These are the hazards that you need to mitigate, and we'll charge you for doing it. So they don't. So this obviously is significantly less cost because you don't need to pay for the channel. But this is something that Suffolk just says, don't care what every other highways authority says. We think in any circumstance it's a high risk for the safe passage of other users of the highway,
Mhm.
and therefore we won't allow people to do it, even if they think they're doing it safely multiple times with no complaints.
Right.
Which is
Excellent.
sad. You know, I just don't understand why they're being so. I don't understand their attitude at all.
Mm.
Anyway, that was a good question from Colin with a rather negative answer. Then there is, this is for Laura. Question 4 is Laura's question, isn't it, really? And we get a similarly negative answer, I'm afraid. Unless you also have a blue badge and a disabled bay outside your property, in which case you have moral rights to park there. But
Mm.
you know, someone else, legally, someone can park in your disabled bay anyway. 5, could they be more relaxed about drop curbs? Well, March 2022, they tell us. Who knew? They'd already relaxed it. But I mean, did anyone on the planning committee know that they relaxed their? I mean, not that it's a planning issue, but it would have been handy to know that on the planning committee. But I think I was still on it at that time. I didn't know that they are now allowing you to park head on into your property with only 4 meters of clearance from the footpath, where it used to be 5 before. I don't know what it used to be for parallel parking, but they'll now allow that with only 3.5 meters. And they call that a substandard application, in which case they take, I think the footnote says that they take a charge on your property, not because they want any money out of it when you sell it, but just as a way of flagging to the next purchaser of your property that there is this condition that okay, you can park a short car on this short drop curb into your property, but you still can't stick your rear end of your car out over the footway, as of course we see all over town, you know, for various reasons. But anyway, they have already done a bit of a relaxation. I was also thinking of the relaxation about how near a pair of drop curbs can be to one another, because I think you've got to have at least one car's parking in between, or is it 2 cars parking in between any adjacent drop curbs? But anyway, at least they are showing willing there, so I think we have to be grateful for that. I'm really pleased to see that there was a strong response from divers. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist yellow highlighting on that.
Drivers.
I didn't realize so many taxi and private hire drivers were amateur divers as well. It's great, isn't it? Oh, thank you. Joe's just flagged up that it's 5 meters apart between drop curbs, but and I think his ... there was to say that it's to accommodate at least one car, isn't it, or something like that? You know, because they're trying to preserve on-street parking, on-street parking, which is sensible. We don't want to sacrifice too much on-street parking.
Is it sensible if every property has a front garden big enough to allow them to take a car off the road and therefore be charged on their domestic rates and all the rest of it, then that's good. Because if you're saying to somebody, you can't park your car on your front garden because your next door neighbour has, on either side, has a drop curb, so you can't have one. Well, the car that's going to be occupying that 5 meter space is a car belonging to the house and wasn't allowed to have their car parked off road.
Yes.
Mm.
It's just a silly argument.
That seems strange, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but I guess you can run out of visitor parking, can't you?
Well, you can park in front of the house that you're visiting,
Oh,
because supposedly
you
they
can
don't want
block
to leave whilst you're visiting.
Mm.
Yeah, you can block the drive of the house you're visiting, but not otherwise. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. There's a lot to think about, and I'm not convinced they've thought about it in enough depth, really. Then there was what about flats and housing association developments, such as there are around the back of me, where there's a lot of communal car park area. But just like a block of flats might have communal car park, but how do they get in on the act? There's a sort of sympathetic answer here. It goes, I didn't manage to abbreviate this or paraphrase it usefully. Yeah, I think they're saying, you know, they are they what are they? They're not coming up with any real solution, are they?
Seems to be just a case of
That
wait and see, isn't it? And that seems to be what it's saying.
well, they're saying they're relying on their on-street parking. So okay, you might have a communal private car park for your block of flats or housing association development, but you've still got to drive out onto the street where the county is going to put all this eventually put all this infrastructure. And then they're saying, oh, well, from the price point of view, we'll make sure we'll manage the contract, which was going to be one of my next questions. You know, how do you stop the charge point operator from scalping captive customers? And the answer is that they are going to manage the contract to ensure that it will be cheaper than the tariff for destination or journey charge points. Well, given that that can be pushing on towards £1 per kilowatt hour, that's not too difficult, is it really? But fortunately, I don't know if you've seen further down, I've managed to find some really cheap charging, some of it rapid even. Is it 53 pence a kilowatt hour for rapid charging from a Tesla operation? And I mean, not that we've got a Tesla in town yet, but I suppose it will come eventually. So I've tried to sort of cap their ambitions for letting the charge point operator push that up too high, because I think when it starts going up to the level that West Suffolk Council have already got it in a lot of their car parks, where are we at 59 pence? It begins to get quite painful if you're hard up. It looks quite hard. Okay, so then I've just got a whole rag bag here of ideas about how we might want to respond. You know, I really don't think they're taking climate emergency seriously enough. The statistics I've managed to get some fresh statistics out and a graph. If you could scroll down a bit, Colin.
Councillor Mason had his hand up, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'll take question.
So, Councillor Mason.
Yeah, I was going to say something. I kind of reacted rather negatively about the climate, not taking the climate crisis seriously enough, but I'm going to let it pass.
Okay, thank you. I mean, you'll be shocked by the next bit. I mean, it's all relative. Maybe they do take it seriously, but it's got to result in. I mean, I know EVs are only a fraction of the climate crisis, but you know, it's something that Suffolk County Council can do something about eventually with government support, I admit. On that graph, the amended version, I think you've still got the version 1, Colin. The amended version, it comes out as a different average growth in licensed ULEVs. That's EVs and other fuels that might be hydrogen powered or what have you. It's actually 3,045 per year. I got my subtraction wrong there. And so, I mean, that still doesn't make it particularly high. That means that I'm sorry about this, the 201 years that I've said it would take for ULEVs to replace the remainder of Suffolk's current licensed vehicles, it's only 180 years. I'm terribly sorry about that.
Okay.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It is ridiculous amounts.
Okay. The introduction of the 3,500 charge points is the beginning of making that change, of giving people the confidence that yes, it would be safe and not too expensive to get an EV. I mean, secondhand EVs are actually cheaper than, I've seen a claim recently, cheaper than comparable petrol or diesel vehicles that are still on sale. So the affordability of the vehicle is getting better. I'm not saying it's brilliant. You know, you can't get old banger EVs very, very easily, I don't think. But young bangers are, by comparison, a bit cheaper. But the 3,500 ain't going to make a difference. It's going to be 10 times that. Yes, when people can see that there are plenty of affordable charge points around the place and they're not forced to go somewhere very expensive, yeah, then that will make a difference. But this 3,500 really isn't enough. I mean, it's got to really be boosted to accept. And I'm not saying this is only Suffolk County Council's responsibility. Central government has got to be responsible here as well. That what did I say? It was now 180 years. It's got to come down to 20 years, hasn't it, or less, preferably. It's got to really be kick-started. Okay, I'll shut my rant up on that. What else have we got?
Just ask a question.
Yep.
Yeah, Councillor Stinchcombe, in terms of that period of years, is that working on the assumption that the county council EV infrastructure strategy is responsible for everybody in Suffolk getting every household in Suffolk getting EV chargers? Because surely the lots of private households, that's their responsibility. Or have you taken that into account?
No, there's no way of knowing from vehicle licensing how people are charging their vehicles. I mean, it's a mixture. I mainly charge at home, and then occasionally I charge away from home. And I can't imagine it would be any different from for anyone with a home charger. They unlikely never to need to charge outside the home.
But 25% of households. So you could take the 180 and divide by 4 for the number of years. I know it's still a long way off, but it's got quite close over the course of the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree. Not all of that. Yeah, I think there are social trends here as well. You might say that if someone can afford to have a drive or garage that they can drive their vehicle onto to charge it, they can probably afford to get the charger and get on with doing it at home. But in a way, people, I think, are guided by what other people are doing. And if they see the whole population being a bit tentative about EVs, they may be worried about, well, do EVs fall apart or blow up, or whatever other worries that they might have, as much as can I afford to do it, or is there the charging? So I think we've got to ignite this bonfire. We've got to put some accelerant on this bonfire, as it were. I'm sorry, that's not the right analogy when you're talking about electric vehicles. I don't want to frighten people, but we've got to somehow inject a sense that yes, we're doing this. It's not compulsory, but the majority of us are doing this because it's the right thing to do.
Councillor David Smith. Sorry, Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, I understand that if the county council are a bit worried about the cost of this, because we know the situation with the budget as it is at the moment, the county council is well documented. It feels like are they dragging their feet a bit, because I think, well, there's going to be eventually there's going to be other technologies that come along that will make all this redundant. It just feels like if we don't do it straight away, don't do it as soon as possible, then we're going to move on to the next show, if that makes sense. I don't know.
What, like hydrogen charging points outside everyone's home?
Yeah, that sort of thing, yeah. So are they just... It's probably just unfair, but are they waiting for the next thing to come along before they invest money? I don't know. It just...
I think it might go back to World War II driving of vehicles. Like you used to fill up a gas bag on the roof of your car, didn't you? Full of town gas at the time. You've seen the photos, Dave. Come on. There were gas bags. There were gas bags on the top of cars full of town gas, and it's almost like, oh well, maybe people will be heating their homes with hydrogen. I don't think a lot of people think would be a terribly brilliant idea for various reasons. Mainly because the calorific.
I'm not meaning to knock the county council, just that I can understand they're strapped for cash at the moment, and
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. But they've got to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And I maybe maligned them by saying they're not taking the climate emergency seriously. But in this respect, 3,500, ain't going to go very far, as we'll see in a moment.
Okay. So is there much more of this document to have a look at, or do we talk about what
Well,
sort of
yes, I think this would. I mean, we don't have to grind all the way through it, but the stats here that are highlighted, that are emboldened here. I've done the arithmetic, unless anyone can find fault with it. I'm hoping that maybe Laura has checked my arithmetic. I don't think anyone else. Oh, I don't know. Maybe Colin has as well. We might, if we are indeed 3.5% of the population of Suffolk-ish, then we might expect to receive 130. And if it's pro rata, if the rural, villages don't actually have a higher claim than we do to on-street charge points, which is arguable. There might be some good reason why they should get more than we do, but if it's strictly pro rata, then we could get about 133 on-street charge points scattered over the town, and not necessarily evenly, because as I think I said lower down, there might be some streets that have entirely off-street parking. So what do they need any on-street charging for? Maybe they don't. But if they were scattered evenly, and maybe 3 or 4 community charging hubs even. Could that be the case? Yeah, 3.5% of the population, and there are 100 of them. We could get, I don't think we're going to get 3 or 4 community charging hubs, but we might theoretically be due them. Well, that would be 475 streets and 11,800 households to share those possible facilities. So an on-street charge point would have to serve one on-street charge point would have to serve 3.6 streets on average, and better, fewer than that if you were lucky, but 89 households or fewer if you were lucky. So do you see what I mean? It's not, it's going to show that charge points exist, and 1 or 2, people who happen to live near them will get to start using them, which is good. And people who live a bit further afield will be able to turn up at odd times and also use them. But it's just scratching the surface. It's more of a trial, really. It's more of a sort of demonstration that, yes, we can do this, but it ain't going to really serve the needs of a lot of people.
I think looking at the national picture, though, I mean, I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were saying about people aren't taking up EV vehicles, electric vehicles, as much as they'd hoped. So is there going to be the demand for what you're suggesting that we might need?
Well, we've got to try and encourage it. It'll be expensive to encourage it, but the investment has to be made. I mean, eventually, presumably do you remember in Cuba, they're driving 30, 40-year-old cars, aren't they? Because they can't import cars or make, they don't have any car factories. So it potentially could be like that with petrol and diesel vehicles. But of course, you've got your old banger that's 30 years old. Can you possibly afford to maintain it? Maybe the parts will get ridiculously expensive. Maybe the skills of repairing a diesel engine will die out, because all the auto mechanics are EV folk. There are fewer and fewer, at the moment it's the other way around. There aren't any specialist EV garages near you, but it'll be the other way around, won't it? When there won't be any internal combustion engine specialists near you, you might have to drive to Newmarket to get what you want there. So eventually it will get so expensive, and the government could push up the price. Do you remember we're supposed to have a fuel duty escalator, aren't we, which was meant to make carbonising fuels more expensive? Well, how many years has that been suspended for? It's been deliberately suspended to sweeten the population, hasn't it? And not save the planet. So if we go back to saving the planet or making good the government's black hole in its finances, we could be uplifting the fuel duty to the point where that was making it prohibitively expensive. So the government's got all sorts of levers it can pull, and eventually I think the good thing about EVs is, all right, the battery might be exceedingly expensive, and a motor or two might be very expensive to replace, but the maintenance is a lot cheaper. I mean, there's no oil to change, is there, for a start? You don't.
Hmm.
You don't need
Yeah, I mean,
all the kind of standard stuff you need with
Hmm.
with a petrol or diesel car.
I mean, people like Pat and yourself are sort of trying to talk me into it all. So, but yes, but it is interesting what the national picture is as well, and whether county councils are sort of waiting to see what moves the central government are going to make, possibly. But it does need to be a national priority, doesn't it? At the end of the
Yeah.
day, and that sort of devolved to the counties. So, what are you suggesting we do with the response?
Well, we could tell them a feedback some of the things that are on the pages we've looked at since the question and answer. Yeah, that page with the graph and the
Yeah.
page we're currently on. It rambles on, and it's all terribly interesting. And the page afterwards finishes that off. And then I've actually formulated some. Do you remember my previous report last meeting? It was similar. It was a rant followed by, and we might ask these questions. Well, this is a rant in response that you've just been exposed to. And
Okay.
now on where are we? The fourth page, are we? No, fifth page. Sorry, it's got what further questions might we want to ask. And I don't know how. We probably can't spare a lot more time to look through those, but if folk were disposed for Colin to work up, thank you very much for your letter, and here's our response to it, and here are some further questions, except that we're encouraged, Colin, aren't we, to go directly to the EV team this time. We've got an email address to respond to, haven't we, rather than back to the
Although
cabinet
these
member.
are strategic questions, so I'm not entirely sure that the EV team will be able to speak for the county on strategic
Council.
matters.
Okay, well, I'd be guided by Colin there. I mean, I think basically, I don't think the cabinet member was actually crafting these answers to our questions himself. He was reliant on the EV team, but if it makes strategic sense to treat it as a strategic thing and to go to the top,
Well,
it's not just a minor query we have.
Copy him in the same as we'd copy in our own local county councillors.
At the very least, yeah. Yeah, so we'd be guided by Colin. I don't know if anyone wants to shoot down any of the questions that I've got on page 5, but I think they're all reasonable questions based on what you've heard me say so far.
Chair, Councillor Miller-Jones has a hand up.
Yeah, Councillor Miller-Jones.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to propose that Alan and Colin go ahead and do a response and send it to the EV team and to the other guy. Just, you might as well send it to everyone you can send it to, and then at least it's being seen by the right person. But yeah, can I propose that you guys do that, send back that response? I have no problem with anything you've written in that document.
Have we got anyone that seconds that proposal? Councillor Page. All in favour? Yep, so that's carried. Thank you. So we'll leave it at that then. Obviously, we're relying on Colin's efforts and Councillor Stinchkin's efforts to get this sorted. Thank you.
Well,
not
I think
sorted,
that's a bit,
but that's a bit of a that's
bit of a tall order.
Yes, that's true. So yeah, but to at least let them know
Keep
where
challenging.
we stand.
We're challenging them, aren't we?
We're challenging
to do
them.
more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair,
So I go on.
Chair,
Sorry?
shall I record our thanks to Councillor Stinchcombe for his work on this?
Yes, please. That'd be lovely. Yeah, if you can
Thank you.
do that. Okay, so let's go to the rest of the agenda. If I can bring this up. Okay, so item 8 is the Town for Nature and Togetherness, a report from Councillor Pat Hanlon. Did we have a copy of that report?
No, and Councillor Hanlon has said he's not going to provide one either. He was approached by I think a Green Party member some time ago about a meeting about this, but it all seems to have just fizzled away, And
Oh, okay.
I had some email correspondence with Councillor Hanlon saying that, you know, there really isn't anything for us to do with this.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Okay, so item 9, visit to Great Blakenham, the plant there, update on visit plan. So
Yeah, so we've got a date and time, and we've got some more people who've now said at that date and time that they can come along. So
mhm,
we'll need to think about a vehicle. We could fit in a kind of 8-seater type thing, or take a couple of vehicles. But Councillor
yeah,
Smith has his hand up.
yeah, I see that. Yeah, Councillor David Smith.
Yeah, I've probably got your recent email, Colin, about there being a lot of climbing up and down the stairs. I wondered if it would be right for me to go on that. I wouldn't want to sort of hold people up.
Well, having done that tour, I would have said that with great respect, you would struggle for the tour, but the actual visitor centre, you know, you can see everything anyway, and on that floor you can see the control room.
Mhm.
But climbing up and up and up and up, it's industrial steel staircases, and so yeah, they're not conducive to a tour particularly. Yes, as Councillor Mason saying,
Mm,
the visitor.
quite
Come
challenging.
along, go to the visitor centre. There's tons in the visit. We'll spend half the time in the visitor
Never
centre
this.
anyway.
Yeah, I think perhaps
And
discretion being a
at the
better
very
part of
least,
valor. I think, yeah, because
yeah, it's lovely views out the window for that matter as well. But yeah, so you can see a lot on that floor. But after that, though, I think I'd probably suggest, with great respect, that you might want to take a seat and amuse yourself looking in more detail at what's in the visitor centre,
that's January the 7th, isn't it?
something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't make any of the dates you offered, unfortunately, because of working patterns. But hopefully, if Councillor Smith is there, he can report back to me. Or report back to me. Councillor Miller Jones, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to Dave that I will probably be fine, but I keep having like really bad problems with my legs at the moment. So like if it was today, I couldn't do the stairs either. So if you do come, there is a chance that I will also have to wait with you, so you won't be alone.
Oh,
So
That's nice to know. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to the next item. Oops, losing my screen. Where are we? Okay, so we now go to the energy efficiency item 10. So the Arts Centre for the operations managers to give us some feedback, and then on the Clements Community Centre.
Yeah.
Okay, over to Gary.
The feedback from our planned foray into the decarbonisation fund, we finally got round to an off-delayed meeting with our lead at Equans, who attended a recce of the Arts Centre. There were a number of strands that came out of that. One was the actual infrastructure of the building itself. 2 was the plan moving forward for the rescoping of the Arts Centre. And 3 was the opinion of our leader Equans to bring all of this together, and his suggestion was that it dovetails with the 2 elements. One would be the next round of the decarbonisation fund through Salix, and also work with the Arts Centre director being Daniel Schumann, and dovetailing the 2 together so that it was a more of a holistic plan, rather than putting something in place that may have to be changed, as that would impact negatively on any applications anyway. If we put something in and then it has to change with a plan going forward a couple of years hence. So the 2 have been brought together to discuss going forward into 2025. When I spoke to Dan Schumann on this, he said that he was hoping that the next round of the decarbonisation fund applications, round 5, they would like to hit that and dovetail that with the with the proposals to move forward with the art centre.
The Heritage Lottery Fund.
The homes. So I'm hoping that Colin can confirm that that's where we're at, just so that I'm 100% sure on that.
Yes, so the deadline for the well, it's already up, it's up, come and gone, Salix round, there wasn't sufficient time to put a bid together, and it became apparent when we were walking around the building, when we started talking about the Heritage Lottery Fund plans for you know, basically adding to the building and making some changes to the building, meant two things. Firstly, that all the calculations that Miles could do would be nonsense, because he would be calculating on the wrong building. And secondly, even if we calculated on the building as it was and then put a bid in, at some point we would disclose that the building was then going to alter, in which case our application would be rapidly leaving the queue at the end of their boot. So there was no point going with that. But the Heritage Lottery Fund find the idea of making a heritage building, decarbonising a heritage building, just as attractive as doing any other pieces of work to it. So it makes sense for Miles' expertise to be in working with Dan Schumann on the new design for and then incorporate that the decarbonisation in the Heritage Lottery Fund application instead. And if the Salix thing happens to come along, and then that's then match funding in both directions. The other thing that I had a conversation with Miles was that the original plan to put a air source heat pump in the light well for the media hub, if you know where that is, at the back of the building on the access side, there is basically a deep hole, tiled, which is the windows there are the media hub, but it is too deep for an air source heat pump, and there won't be sufficient air circulation, so it would effectively cavitate in a way, so it wouldn't work. I'm going to arrange a meeting with Councillor Brown to look at the potential for whether a rig can be got into that space for a ground source heat pump. The difficulty with the air source heat pump for a building of this size is it's a very big lump, very big rectangular lump, and it's sitting outside a grade 2 listed building, admittedly not its good side, but it potentially could be considered disfiguring from a conservation point of view. But a ground source heat pump in that space, the plan is to actually go right across the top of that with a stage dock, so that would become a pretty well enclosed space. Ground source doesn't care less about that, and therefore that may well actually work, you know, quite well for us. So we'll pursue that as well.
That sounds very good. Yeah, that sounds a great idea.
Councillor Miller Jones has a hand up.
Councillor Miller Jones.
Yeah, this is great and makes perfect sense. I just wanted to double check, because I don't know if I'm remembering incorrectly. Are ground source slightly less efficient than air source, or have I made that up?
Not according to Councillor Brown, who installs them for a living, but given it, I will take it that's his knowledge rather than his bias.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stinchcombe?
My two penneth worth on that is you're stealing heat from deep underground. Well, as far underground as you can afford to have a borer bore for you. Whereas which I think once committee that basically you're making your garden very chilly, or as would have happened if we tried to put one down this deep hole, we'd have ended up with like a frozen mass of junk at the bottom of a deep hole. But you're not making your immediate environment chilly with a ground source heat pump. You're just sucking in heat from underneath all your neighbours, and of course you're sucking in some heat from underneath your building. But that's always the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we lost you a little bit there, but is everyone okay? Did they understand
Oh, I'm sorry.
what you're saying? Yeah, we just went a little bit croaky. Okay, thank you.
I think, Chair, if I understood right, well, effectively, then yes, a ground source heat pump is more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
Thank you. Is that all you've got to say on the Arts Centre, Gary? And then
So that's moving forward in 2025. As for the Clements, obviously, I believe most of you know that we got funding from the West Suffolk Decarbonisation Initiative Fund. Obviously, well done to Lorna and Colin and pushing on that. We then, as that's come in, we need 3 quotes for that to move forward. We obviously have the original quote that was the original was based on. So at the moment, I have 2 agencies coming in this week, I'm hoping, to recce the Clements as the previous agency did. And I've asked them to have their quotes with us before Christmas, and that would get us in good time for the next meeting in February. So I'm hopeful that I'll have more quotes to round all that off, and then we can move forward on that relatively quickly, actually.
Okay.
So fingers crossed, I can let everyone have them by the end of this week. More than likely, as it's Christmas, they'll probably come in at some point next week rather than.
Councillor Miller-Jones, sorry. Councillor Miller-Jones?
Yes, sorry, I might have come in too soon. You might not have finished. I was going to ask just about the additional funding, if we've explored. I know that the DIF2 was only giving us sort of half of what we needed, and that we had some other funding sources to look at for the remainder. And I just wondered if we have explored those and how that's looking. Sorry if you were going to say that and I came in with my hand too quickly.
No, we'd need the quotes first anyway for that.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions on that? No. Okay, so go back to my agenda. Okay, so number 11, curbside recycling plans for West Suffolk. To note the proposals for April 2026. Okay. Colin, have you got anything to say on that? Have you?
Well, it was a request to put it on the agenda, so I put it on the agenda. But I mean, I think the key 2 words there is April and 2026. So
Yeah, it's quite a way away.
Early to start thinking about how we promote the recycling until it's at. I think I don't know whether we actually know what colour bins they'll be. To be perfectly honest, I don't know whether that decision's been taken.
I don't think it has. Any other councillors know that? No. Yeah, so again, to have a look at it if you can. And obviously those district councillors will keep an ear out for what's happening there. The eco event for 2025. So to consider an event for spring 2025. So
Again,
what about that?
these are items that people asked to put on the agenda for the next meeting. Under the item 13 on this agenda is items for the next meeting, and this just came from there.
Okay, so any ideas from anyone that what we want to do with that? No, Laura. I'm sorry, Councillor Miller-Jones.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything exciting to say. I haven't really considered it. I don't know if it was me who asked to put that on the agenda or not. I don't know if you remember, Colin. But I do think it would be great to do another one. They were really successful when we did them before. I don't know if we can just do the same again, or if there's something we can do to make it better. But I kept having the same suggestions each time, which I think were very hard to sort of achieve, which were things like having kind of like music, like, bands and sort of things, and trying to make it more kind of feel like almost like a little kind of festival kind of thing. And more like variety of kind of food vendors, stuff like that, things that will kind of get people sort of, but unfortunately just requests, but no, I don't have any particular helpful specific things to suggest, I'm afraid.
So if we arrange a green market, I can ask Sarah to look at arranging a green market, and then we can see what we can add into that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. The green market we did like before, didn't we? So can have that as a themed market, can't we? Perhaps we can have some music attached to that. So yeah, and we can work around that and perhaps add those extra bits in. Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else got any other ideas on that before we go on? Again, ideas for the next agenda then? Anything you want to bring up as a burning topic that you want to address? Councillor David Smith.
I just wonder if there's any way we can sort of resurrect, as it were, the recycling store. I know that Nick used to run with his team, the people recycling. Is there anything we can do to sort of bring that back as a council? Because I thought it was very useful for residents.
Councillor Miller-Jones?
So the big problem with that was that a lot of places that were taking the things that we were collecting stopped taking them. And a long time ago now, I sort of searched for solutions, tried to find other places, came up with nothing. I think, Jackie, everyone involved has also tried. And I know Jackie is still collecting things in certain places. I know I think she like collects old pens from schools and stuff and takes them somewhere. But a lot of the things that were collected, we don't have anywhere to put them now. And I mean, I would love it if there was any way we could arrange to be the people storing and taking those things to wherever they're actually recycled. I think we've discussed that before. And I know we've also discussed that at the district environment committee, the same thing, like about the fact that we need to be providing. We can't just sit there going, oh no, well now savers won't help us, so we just can't do anything. I feel like it's our job, whether it's us or district, or us working with district in some kind of partnership. I think that's the only way we can do it, really. I don't think, Dave, that we can go back to what we had before. I think we probably need to be a lot more of an active participant in actually getting the stuff recycled if we want to redo it. Oh, Joe said something in chat.
Yeah, Joe's mentioned we need a waste carrying license. Yeah, that could be part of an issue as well. But as you say, I think working with West Suffolk.
Well, Joe said Haverhill Community Trust can apply for one as a charity. So,
Haverhill Town
Joe,
Council
is that a simple
has
process?
a waste carrying license.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, what was that, Colin?
We already have a waste carrying license.
Okay.
Because we pick up rubbish and stuff from the road, so we have to have a waste
Right.
carrying license.
Okay. So
how do we go about this? What does anyone know what the best way is that we can actually achieve this?
What are we actually talking about, Councillor Jones? What is it that isn't being recycled at the shiny new recycling centre that is actually such a large amount of material?
So a huge
should be
one.
recycled rather than just go to energy from waste.
So a huge one is blister packs. As far as I know, I don't know where they can go, but it's the thing that, most households are producing in some amount, but some households are producing a lot of them. And I know that's a huge thing. Like, we used to take bin bags full of blister packs, sort of, each time. And obviously all those are now just not going anywhere. So that's a big one. Does the new waste place do crisp packets? Because that was another one. We'd always have several bin bags of crisp packets. And I'm not sure if anywhere's taking crisp packets. I don't actually know the answer to that. I don't know if anyone does. Oh, Dave's got his hand up. I'll mute myself.
Dave,
Yeah,
That's
they've
his-
actually started taking that sort of thing at Sainsbury's, funny enough. Just inside the door there. They're taking all like bread wrappers and stuff like that. Not any plastic. That's all. Over wraps for crisp wrappers.
Okay. Councillor Stinchcombe.
Tesco are accepting film, plastic film, whether that includes metallized film, such as you find in crisp packets, I really don't know. But if I have metallized stuff, that's where it's going, in fact. So, you know, no one's arrested me at the door and said, oh, I saw you had a crisp wrapper in there. You can't do that. But eventually a notice would go up saying, please don't put crisp wrappers in here, wouldn't it, if that was really a problem. I don't really know where any of this stuff is going, though. It may all be being sent to China to be burnt, for all I know, or it may be, you know, maybe going to some parallel to Blakenham, you know, where it is all burnt with a lot of oxygen to get rid of the problem. But
Yeah, we need to know a little bit more about what's happening to these things, don't we, really? So, Councillor Jones again, I think you've got your hand up.
Yes, me again. Sorry. Just that Sainsbury's and Tesco's, while they, have receptacles for, an individual to go and take some things, if we're having a market stall, we can't exactly turn up with kind of 4 bin bags full of crisp packets at Sainsbury's because they're not going to take them, which I think is the issue. We need to find out where we can take them and then take them there ourselves, I think. I think that's the thing. So maybe we all need to do a bit more investigating about what actually goes where in Suffolk, if it's not your kind of normal recyclables. But yeah, I don't think we can really use the supermarkets. Obviously, that's great for individuals who will go to the supermarkets and take their stuff, but there are a lot of people who will bring it to the high street if we have the store. And it's that recycling that we want to capture.
Okay, Councillor Stinchcombe.
I'd like to ask Councillor David Smith whether he would do a bit of intelligence gathering at Sainsbury's, since he's on the premises, and he may know exactly who to speak to about exactly that kind of thing.
I was just thinking that.
Thank
so
you.
A little bit more research then needs to be done.
Councillor Page has put an interesting message in the chat.
Councillor Page, what have you said in the chat?
They burn it.
Oh, okay.
Where do they burn it?
Burnham.
Don't know.
That's what worries me, because if it went into landfill, I don't think it's not burnt. Oh, this is plastic. If it's combustible and it goes to Great Blakenham, it will get burnt there, won't it?
So
I guess that's a major piece of their fuel is plastic waste that's not accepted for recycling.
Councillor Page, sorry, do you want to say something?
Mostly burnt abroad in places like China, as far as I can.
Okay.
So I predicted that, and Damien has confirmed it.
Well, that's a shame, because it's not really doing the planet any much good, and it's also being transported to these places, so carbon footprint as well of that. Councillor Stinchcombe, sorry.
Sorry, I've come back again from the dead. We're saying we've got a shiny new recycling centre. If you are a person who doesn't have a car, but you can stagger your way, to the centre of town to a market stall, but you don't feel like making a trip up to the shiny new recycling centre on foot and risk getting run over by a 4x4 when you get there, or you feel intimidated by it. Actually, there are maybe some things that are only acceptable at the recycling centre, that for which there is no other, the bin system won't accept, but the recycling centre will. And maybe just to transport stuff from the market stall up to there in some quantities, week by week, would be a helpful service and would help the planet.
As long as we're not seen as what do you call it, like contractors or whatever that are taking, because you're only supposed to be sort of dumping your own personal rubbish, aren't you? so to speak.
Well, if it's done in the town van, the town council's van, how can it possibly be anything but a public good?
Okay.
Would be my argument.
Is that something we could do, Colin?
Well, the town council van, in common with the West Suffolk van, they are all accepted into the recycling centre on the basis that they're sign-written vehicles, so that the vehicle licence plates are registered with Suffolk County Council contractors who run the recycling place. So we are able to take vanfuls of stuff there.
Okay.
I wonder, I don't know about things like when it comes to crisp packets and things like that. One of the big problems, of course, is compliance and whether people do they have to wash out these things, because we often hear from Mark up at West Suffolk for operations, Mark Walsh, that just a couple of people who can't be bothered to do it properly can ruin an entire truck full of recycling.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Okay.
over dramatizing what really happens.
Yeah.
But, I don't know whether there's a certain easy kind of temptation for people to reject a truckload because you've got Great Blakenham, so they can dump it there instead of across the road at the recycling place. I don't know.
Councillor Miller-Jones again.
Thank you. Yeah, so when it comes to crisp packets at Keep Haverhill Recycling, Keep Haverhill Recycling asked to everyone to give them sort of, flattened, like clean and flat and folded. And everybody did, with a few exceptions. All the people bringing them, so good about bringing them clean and flat and really good. Obviously, blister packs, which are a big one, they're obviously clean. Toothpaste tubes is another one, which I'm not sure that can be done anywhere anymore. And people did bring us quite a lot of stuff like that. And I do not know if they would have been washed out. I can't really imagine washing out a toothpaste tube is very easy. When I've recycled toothpaste tubes, I've, given them a rinse kind of, but I'm sure they're probably still, full of toothpaste remnants. But obviously there are places taking toothpaste tubes. So presumably they're doing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I assume that's fine.
Yeah.
But I would say if we could find out where these things that Keep Haverhill Recycling used to take, and the big ones are blister packs, crisp packets. I would say the next one is kind of toothpaste tubes and other sort of packaging that can't be recycled in your normal recycling. If we could find somewhere that we as a council could take them, I think we should be doing it. And if we can ask West Suffolk to help, I sit on the environment group at West Suffolk as well. And if we could ask them to kind of, help with money or logistics or whatever it might be, great, and I'm happy to do my part in that. But I think it's something we should absolutely be trying to take up again, because I do think it's really important. I've probably got about 2,000 blister packs in my house right now that are just waiting till I find somewhere to take them.
Councillor Mason's just put a link, I think, onto the West Suffolk Recycling org, what to do with various things like crisp packets. So check out with that. But yeah, we need to perhaps know a bit more about what we can do, where we can send these things and make sure that they're disposed of properly. The other thing that came up, I think I saw in one of the emails, I don't know if it's Councillor Stinchcombe, but the sharp spins. Was it you, Councillor Stinchcombe, mentioned the sharp spins?
Indeed.
There's been some chat on Facebook, I believe, about surgeries not taking them.
Yeah, as far as I understand, it's only Unity Health that has withdrawn from that. Why on earth they feel they can't assist with that, I don't know. Haverhill Family Practice is still willing to take stuff for their own patients. Unfortunately, it's limited to their own patients. While the pharmacy, which is the designated, presumably the surgery can take any amount of sharps because they've got their own sharps to dispose of, haven't they? But they don't normally want to do that or need to do that because the pharmacy is having their stuff collected. But I don't know what's gone wrong. Is it because they've been the nominated collection point for a while?
Right, the pharmacy doesn't usually take them. I've asked. They don't take them normally.
Which pharmacy are we talking about?
Sorry, the pharmacy in the doctors. They won't
at
take
Haverhill
them.
Pharmacy
Yeah.
Well, they do. They're the
oh right.
They're the nominated place, but they've run out of space because
okay.
the West Suffolk Council contractor Mark Walsh has only asked them to go in every month to do a collection, and they've only just started off, possibly due to Unity Health pulling out. And I don't understand his logic. Wouldn't you start off giving a frequent collection, knowing that there's a bit of a problem, and then slacken it off if it's not needed that often? But he's decided to go in with a monthly collection when it probably looks like it needs a fortnightly collection or whatever. So basically, it may be that the collection has happened by now, but last week there was definitely, oh gosh, we don't know quite when they're going to turn up. I spoke to the pharmacist, and he didn't know when they were going to turn up, and Mark Walsh wasn't willing to put a date on it when he replied by, I don't know who he replied to by email. Was it Pat Hanlon he replied to and said, they're coming soon, but he didn't say next Tuesday or anything like that. So they may have been today, and maybe we're back to normal, but I'm afraid that's the only place we can routinely direct people to.
Because I've got some loads to get rid of, actually.
Yeah.
Been saving them up. Okay. Fair enough. Right. Anything else that we want to add to the agenda for next time? No? We've got enough to keep us going, perhaps? Okay then, so just go back to the agenda. Date of next meeting, Tuesday, the 4th of February. Okay. And we'll close the meeting 2026 according to my watch. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you for your attendance.